Hello, welcome to Skull RPG Podcast. My name's Dwight Skull.
My name's Jacob Skull.
And today we're going to teach you how to tell your story.
Hey Dwight, your gaming is known for big twists and big reveals. Could you give an example of one of those as we talk about twists?
Sure, I'll give an example that you always bring up. And there's a couple of them actually that I'll bring up, but we were playing a GURPS game that spanned 3 different time periods, and we're still not done with it. I know you guys want to get back to it, but we won't talk about that here. The first thing that happened is it was a modern day game where they had to basically, I'll put it this way, unsummon a demon. It would be the easiest way to say it. Okay. And they had the information to do it, and they were really walked alongside with by a mentor. So if you haven't heard our second podcast on like the hero's journey, or you're familiar with the hero's journey, think about your Gandalf, your Obi-Wan, not dying, but walking with you throughout the rest of the game. You've been checking in with this person, memorable NPC. They've been very helpful, overtly helpful.
With you, he helped you capture one of the people against you to help you get to your end goal.
So over the course of like 3-4 months, they trust this individual.
Mm-hmm.
What was his name? Reinhold?
Reinhardt
was his name. And so what it was really simple. They get to him and they say, hey, we have everything we need. And he's like, perfect. So he opens up the portal for them to go into this other nether world and
seal the demon back in for good. Yep. He comes with us to help. And then we have the other guy to complete the ceremony. And then as we're watching him do his work, we start to realize he's not stopping the demon.
To be clear, Reinhold isn't stopping the ceremony to seal the demon. He's actually calling forth the demon and using the person they had to bring as a sacrifice to kind of seal it as the sacrifice to open it fully.
And then we realize that in mid-ceremony. So now we have to stop that.
Yeah. So there's this war that takes place. Eventually they kill the guy and they end up ending it. But the big twist there was that the guy that was the mentor forever wasn't really the mentor. Now, how I came up with it, and this is the best part, I didn't. We're sitting there, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, well, this just is too easy, this game session. They've done a lot more than I thought. They've succeeded in ways I never thought they would. And we're going to be done in like 6 minutes if I end this game with this. So I thought to myself, well, screw it. What if that guy was actually the villain the entire time, and he was just using the players to get there was like several ritual instruments they needed and texts and stuff, like
a dagger, somebody who has the mark.
So what if he just used the players to gather all the items so he could just stay at home and read a book or whatever?
And it works so perfectly because there actually wasn't a long con until 10 minutes before.
So it was a long con.
10 minutes before there was a long con. So all of his actions works perfectly, and we wouldn't detect anything because he's playing true to his role.
Yeah, and it was fantastic. Another one that happened, just as an example of a big reveal, and again, a lot of these big reveals and these twists, the big reveals take a little bit more plans. The twists can happen almost immediately. So as an example of let's do an example of a big reveal then. So I've mentioned in one of the other podcasts the political intrigue game I had. I called that the I think it was called the Bargath Legacy. The Bargath Legacy. Bargath was the name of the king. And so what happened there was the 2 players that I was playing with, they had the ability to each have a secret power, and we were rolling secretly the entire time so that neither one of them actually knew what each other's secret powers were.
And part of your reveal was them finding out what their powers
were.
No. They still don't know.
No, they still don't know.
They have suspicions on what they are, but not fully.
So the interesting big reveal is that they had a choice to go either help the king do this weird subversive act against the entire kingdom or kill the king. And knowing the players, even in life, they're very, they're not very lawful characters. They're more chaotic in real life. So they chose to. Well, only one of them did because their power allowed them to.
Yes.
And so what was the fun part with the big reveals? I knew the one character was going to use his powers to kill the king. The other player was also trying to use his powers to kill the king, but one of the powers was like shape-shifting into a crow, which allowed him to then...
the other one was like Yeah.
that allowed him to fly into the room and kill the king. But the other one was like mental, like he could convince
mental
you.
manipulation and things like that.
So he was trying to manipulate guards to get him close enough to the king or to kill the king himself themselves. And so what ended up happening is while the one player is playing the big long con, the other player they get close enough physically to do it, and the next thing you know, I have the bells ringing for the king is dead. And the one player looks very smug, and the other player's looking at me like, how the heck did that happen? And then the one player looked at the other player and realized he did something, but that player refused to say what it was, even out of game. And so the big reveal there was your powers helped end the king. And even though you didn't know it, you were both competing against each other to kill the king faster. And they could have actually worked together and revealed each other's powers, but they chose not to the entire game. So why would I ruin that at the end? So the big reveal there was the king is dead. You've done your objective, but only one of you knows how it was done. So it's kind of a twist, kind of a big reveal, kind of a fun thing there. The other thing I like to do with big reveals is if I know I'm going to have a big reveal, I will start to tease it out.
Yeah, you need to hint at it throughout so that there's a little bit of foreshadowing, but not enough for them to. It's more of the after fact of, oh, that's why you did X. That's why you did Y. That's why you said Z type of thing, but not enough for them to catch on.
What you don't want to do is what I think J.K. Rowling did in the 7th book, where she just introduces these things called the Deathly Hallows. What hint did you have before? Well, you had an invisibility cloak that a couple of times was mentioned should have been... They don't last that long.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other hint you had was literally if you had bought in the side book... I can't remember what it's called right now. Oh, Tales of Beetle the Bard. You would see that in there. You'd see that tale, but there was like 7 other tales. So there's really nothing in there that would actually help you.
Nothing for you to figure out.
There wasn't enough teasing of it.
Yeah.
So what I would do is if I was going to tease out a thing, again, so if you haven't heard the villain, our last podcast, go back and listen to that too, but you don't need to hear it for this, but the point would be to tease out the big reveal or the twist. So in that, we talked about creating a villain and making him or her memorable, and one of the ways to do that is to give them like agency and desires and goals and needs. Well, another way to do that too, of course, is to make them sympathetic because people that you thought were on your side have done something against them. Well, one of the ways to do a big reveal is to reveal that that's happened.
Yes.
And how they can do that is by you teasing out statements and lines, maybe a book or two, maybe an ugly rumor or two against their guy that you've been just putting up as the best thing since sliced bread, their mentor character.
Start to show that this guy isn't the good and holy cleric, that there's some shades of gray. And those grayness is actually pure black eventually.
Well, yeah, and where they made him into, or her into the man or woman that they are now, and because of remorse or something. So, like, let's just take so imagine if Obi-Wan lives the entire time, okay? And what happens with Obi-Wan is he appears to be good and holy, but then Luke kind of hears a rumor or two in one of the space bars about, oh, is that Obi-Wan, the destroyer of worlds? And like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So you get that one little line, but you kind of throw it away. And then a couple of months later, you maybe do another hint where somebody tries to kill Obi-Wan for killing his family, which doesn't make any sense to you either. So then you end up killing that guy so that he doesn't kill your mentor or something like that. And you kind of just lead them to believe that the mentor is a really good and wholesome character.
And these people are just framing him and creating rumors for some reason, but it's not because of their character. It's somebody's trying to bring him down, not his actions from the past are bringing him down.
Exactly. And then the big reveal is you've gotten like maybe 6 of those things lined up over the course of like 7 months. So maybe one gaming session a month, you just drop a line about it.
Or you create a whole entire session about you stopping something from happening around them so it's memorable.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to go too. And then the next thing you know, you drop that bomb, and the good character basically says, "Yep, that's exactly what happened. In my impetuous youth, I da 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 da." And then the players now have an option of, do they kill this character? Do they not? Let him go.
Bring him to justice. There's several ways they can go now.
Right, but he's so powerful, he's never been brought to justice. So what do you do?
But you might have the power. So now
you do.
But yeah, so now it's this fun thing of you have 8 ways to go.
Yep.
What's your morality tell you?
Exactly. And before you would do that, you would actually want to have the stats for your hero, your mentor.
Preemptive if they try to fight it.
Yeah, and make sure that there are 3 levels. If you're doing like a D&D campaign, make sure they're like 3 levels higher. You want to basically make sure that they actually have the ability to kill one or more of the party members if that thing goes down.
Because you want it to be a potential TPK, but then their end goal is there.
Right, because they know that they're fighting the actual...
Yep. And then one thing just to help out with, if you're going to have several paths that they can choose, have a general idea of, if they try to kill him, these are the repercussions of their actions here. If they try to bring him to justice, these are the repercussions. If they just leave, these are the repercussions. So now no matter what they choose, you have a general way to go with improv of, oh yeah, this is what you do.
Yep, exactly.
Because you never had anything fleshed out on our actions. You just had a general idea of, our world, this is what would happen.
Yep, and having that beforehand is always good. So, anyway, that's it for Twists and Reveals.
Hey, thanks for listening.
And for more resources, please go to skullrpg.com.